There are so many things that people believe cause hair loss. Don't be fooled. You have to know the real causes of hair loss so that you can be informed and know how to prevent it. You've heard it time and time again, the supposed causes of hair loss. It comes from your mother's side. Maybe it comes from your father's side. Is it wearing a hat or not wearing a hat that causes hair loss? In this video, I'm going to talk about the real causes of hair loss and debunk some of these myths, and so that you'll know how to actually treat your hair loss. In this video, I'll be breaking down the top 5 myths about hair loss. Myth number 1, hair loss comes from your mother's side. I think my father started that myth. Anyway, he blames it on her, but I know for a fact, if you have hair loss in any member of your family, you can also have hair loss as well. Now there's some evidence. If you have hair loss in your mother's side, it may give a slight increase in the predictability that you might have it. But again, if you have hair loss in any member of your family, father or mother's side, you have the risk of having hair loss. It's not uncommon for patients to come into my office and tell me, I don't know why I'm going bald. I have no hair loss on my mother's side. And they'll keep talking and talking, describing when it started. And then I'll finally ask them about, well, what about your father's side? And they'll go, oh yeah, my dad's completely bald, or I have an uncle 3 generations back that was bald. So if you have hair loss on either side of your family, you have the risk of losing hair yourself. Myth number 2, shaving your head will make your hair grow back faster. Well, I have some sad news for you. It doesn't. The reason why people say that is because if you shave your head, the small little hairs that are starting to grow often seem very stiff, and it seems like it's coming back in more vigorous or growing faster. But in reality, it's growing at the same rate it always did. The other thing is that the hair shafts themselves are actually dead skin cells, or a type of skin cell. They don't have any sensitivity. They don't transmit any information down to the follicles to say grow faster or slow down. There is no transmission between the cut hair on the top and the surface of your skin down to the follicle itself. So if you like the short haircut, shave your head, but it's not going to treat hair loss at all or make your hair grow any faster. Myth number 3, overwashing your hair will cause hair loss. Well, that's really not true. Now, when you wash your hair, you may notice that hair is actually coming out onto your hands when you rinse your scalp or apply the shampoo. That hair was going to fall out anyway. Now, that hair is not a hair loss, it's a shed. Those hairs have been in a resting phase for 2 to 3 months and they're ready to fall out. They can fall out when you wash your hair, they can fall out when you rub your scalp, but that's not hair loss. Again, that's the normal growth and rest cycles that your hair naturally has. Now, if you have very long hair, that's subject to a little bit more trauma to the actual dead part of the hair. So that if you overwash your hair, you may cause some breakage, and you may see that in the shower, and you may see some ends, split ends. That may cause a little bit of damage, but that does not affect the follicle that's sitting deep below the surface of your scalp. The genetics behind hair loss is actually controlled by the follicle deep in your skin, not anything you're doing on the surface. Now, that's not to say that washing your hair may not dry it out or make it a little brittle, but that has nothing to do with hair loss. Myth number 4, only old people suffer from baldness. Well, I hate to tell you this, but baldness in men can start at a very early age. I've seen patients as young as 14 or 15 years old who have had very significant family history of baldness, and they're exhibiting it already. In general, the percentage of men that are suffering from baldness correlates with the decade of life they're in. So for example, approximately 20% of men in their 20s have some hair loss. 40% of men in their 40s have some degree of hair loss. So it can affect you as early as your teens and 20s until you die. The important thing to know is the earlier you catch your hair loss and the earlier you start treatments, the less baldness you'll have throughout your entire life. Myth number 5, taking Minoxidil is bad for you. Well, I have to tell you that we don't have a lot of treatments for hair loss, and Minoxidil is one of the mainstays that we do have. Before I talk about the side effects for it, let me just talk about the efficiency or the efficacy of this medication itself. Approximately 60% of men will notice an improvement in their hair when they use Minoxidil on a regular basis, and 100% of patients will have a slowing of their hair loss. It is one of the mainstays of therapy that we have. That's not to say it doesn't have potential side effects. Some of these side effects are skin irritation. Not everybody's skin can tolerate the Minoxidil itself. It's actually not the Minoxidil, it's the solution that dissolves the Minoxidil. It's propylene glycol, which is kind of like antifreeze. So it's not surprising that some patients get an irritated scalp. The second one is, this is a blood pressure medication. And so there are some people that notice that their blood pressure decreases, they might feel lightheadedness, dizziness, maybe even lose their balance a little bit. It's not very common, but if it happens, you have to talk to your doctor and discuss maybe getting on another dose. Some people notice some swelling in their hands or feet. That isn't very common, but if you notice it, again, you might have to adjust the amount you apply or the amount you ingest. And finally, and this isn't all that common either, but as you apply it to your scalp, you may notice more beard growth or growth of hair in areas that you weren't expecting it. Those are pretty minor to the great effects that it has on the hair on the top of your head, which is, again, possibly making it thicker or slowing down the loss. Earlier, I mentioned that one of the myths was that only old people suffer from hair loss. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into Elon Musk's hair loss and his hair restoration journey.